what's up everybody out there in learning land? Tyler from 10thumbspro.com coming at you with another guitar tutorial like we do every single Monday. So if you like this kind of content, hit subscribe, ring the bell so you never miss a lesson, as well as while you're down there, hit that like button. It really does help the channel. Today what we're going to do is we're going to lean on our guitar skills to play some bass. Now this lesson isn't going to transform you instantly into a magical bass player, but it is going to show you some tricks to at least fake it. So that way if you're at the next session and there's 3 guitar players and a bass laying around, you'll be able to jump on the bass and at least fake it for the session. By fake it, I mean you'll be able to play along with your favorite songs as well as add some spice and some riffs. Maybe even come up with your own bass lines. Printable tabs for this tutorial by becoming a Patreon. You'll see links up in the notes, either this side or this side. I forgot where they're going to be. That'll take you over to Patreon where you can get printable tabs and a PDF for this lesson. And all our other guitar lessons as well. Ready to learn the bass? Go ahead and grab your bass, your knowledge of your guitar, your brain, and your attention span. Once you have those 4 things, follow me on in and let's learn how to fake these cool bass skills. Let's do it. Okay, so the very first thing we want to start with is our tuning. From low to high, we have an E, A, D, G. Now that's significant because the point of reference is because it's the same as the lowest 4 strings on our guitar, we can navigate strings that are familiar. For example, the 5th fret on the E string on your guitar is an A note. The 5th fret on the bass guitar on the E is an A note. On the A string, it's a D note. If you know the bar shapes on your E and A string roots on your guitar, this will be much easier. I'm referring to the E shape, this shape. Okay, so even if you're a beginner, you've probably seen this F chord. Well, maybe you didn't know that this F chord comes from this E chord. If you take the F chord, remove the bar, and move your hand down, it becomes an E. You can also take the F chord and move it up to the 3rd fret, and it's a G. 5th fret, it's an A. So why is that significant? That means you know the A note, G note, B chord, B note. And by knowing those notes, that's how you're going to be able to follow along with the bass and referring to the major, A shape, this shape, or the minor. The last chord you're going to need is this major shape. This comes from the A major, and I play it with 2 fingers. So when I play a B major, for example, I play the 2nd fret of the A string, and I use my ring finger to play the 4th fret of the D, G, and B, and I don't worry about the high E. So in this particular chord progression we're looking at, if it's a D chord, it has the root on the 5th fret, which means the 5th fret of our A string is a D note. So this is the minor shape. So it's just like this actually, just like your A minor, which is, you know, your E major shape, everything just down a string. You've probably seen the B minor. Well, that B minor moves as well. If you have the root on the 4th fret with this B minor or with this A minor shape, 4, 6, 6, 5, 4 becomes a C sharp minor. Now, knowing that means we know the 4th fret is a C sharp note. Now, having said that, this is a minor chord, not a major chord. So there are some differences that we're going to look at when we jump on the bass, specifically the 3rd interval. If you know those chords, you know all the strings on the E and the A strings, which means you know all the notes on your E and your A string on your bass. So if a chord progression, for example, that you're playing with, your friend is playing, and it goes E, C sharp minor, D, A. Do, 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 do. Well, we can find our root notes for those chords. You're not going to strum a bass and play full chords. You're just going to kind of highlight the root and the 5th for the most part. So our chord progression goes E, our A, C sharp, D. Well, we know because of our guitar, the bar chord across the E string, 5th fret, is an A major, which means the 5th fret of our E string here is an A note. We know the C sharp minor has a root on the 4th fret of the A string, which means our C sharp root will be on the 4th fret of our A string here. That goes up a half step to the D major 5th fret root, which means our D note is here. So if they're strumming through that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's what it looks like to play just the root notes. Okay, but you can also build using arpeggios. The bass guitar is very much used for arpeggios to support the rhythm. And a lot of times what you're doing with the bass is your role is to listen to the drums and create a bridge from the bass to the guitar. So your friend is playing that chord progression and you want to do more than just the roots. The 5th interval is the next interval to play. So you have your A note here. To find the 5th, you go down a string and up 2 frets. So we want to know the 5th interval of our A note. We go down from the E string to the A string, and we're on the 5th fret. We add 2, so we go to the 7th fret. So the 7th fret of the A string is our 5th interval. And I am using these 2 fingers to play the E string and the A string. E string, A string. And I'm going 1, 2, and 4, and 1, 2, and 4, and. To match the classic down, down, up, down, 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 oops, down, down, up, down, 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 up, down, up, 1, 2, and 4, and. And so now we have an arpeggio that uses both the root and the 5th interval over our A. The progression then goes to the C sharp minor. Well, the root and the 5th, why those are so cool and so common on the bass, is that you're going to see the root and the 5th in both major and minor chords, as well as 7 chords, major 7 chords, the 6th chord. These 2 notes are essentially almost in every single chord. There are exceptions like flat 5ths and sharp 5ths, but that's why these are the most common, because you can play them over major and minor chords. So the progression goes to a C sharp minor. We have our C sharp note, but we want to add the 5th. Well, how do we find the 5th? It's the same formula. We're on the 4th fret, we go down a string to the 4th fret of the D, and then up 2 frets. So the 6th fret of the D string is the 5th interval to our C sharp. Same thing when we get to the D. We want to find the 5th interval. We go down a string, 5th fret of the D string, up 2 frets. 7th fret of the D string is the 5th interval for our D note. So we went from this to this. And that's going to work for most progressions. You can play around with different rhythms. And experiment with that. But now you know the root and the 5th. So if you want to, you can take it a step further and do full arpeggios that encapsulate the major and the minor chords. To do that, you need to add the 3rd interval. Okay, so while we're here, it's good to know how to add the 3rd interval in case you want to go with full arpeggios. And to make it a full arpeggio, you need to add the 3rd interval, which is different for the major and the minor chords. The major 3rd, to find it, you take your root, go down a string, and then instead of going towards the body, you go towards the neck, 1 fret. So down a string, up a fret. So our A major, our 3rd interval, is the 4th fret of the A string. So now we have a major interval, or a major arpeggio. Okay, so then we get to our C sharp minor. Well, we want to add a minor third. A minor third is a little different. You go down a string, then up 2 frets instead of 1. So we have our C sharp note here. To locate the minor third, we go down to the D string and up 2 frets to the 2nd fret of the D string, with the 5th still being the same note. When we get to the D, the minor third is down a string, up a fret, just like our A, so it's located on the 4th fret of the D. So if we play these with quarter notes with the rest on the 4th beat, 1, 2, 3, 4, we have our arpeggios. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that gives us the full arpeggio with, and so then that's how you play. All right, and that's how you play minor and major arpeggios. Again, though, a lot of times with the bass, you're focused on the root note and sometimes the 5th. Those tricks will work for any chord progression. Just to illustrate how easy that is and how it works for all of them, let's go ahead and say your friend is playing progression that goes G, C, D, E minor, G. Let's locate our G note, 3rd fret of the E string, our 5th, down a string, up 2 frets, and our 3rd, because it's a major chord, down a string, up a fret. So our G major arpeggio, 3, down to the A string, 2, 5. We go to the C, we can either get our C up here, or we can play the C on the A string. And because it's major, we use that same formula for the major third and the 5th. So we get 3rd fret, A string, 2nd and 5th fret on the D. The D, we've already done it, 5th fret, major third, 4th fret, 5th on the 7th fret. Then we go to the E minor. Remember that the minor third is 2 frets, so we play the 7th fret for our E note of the A string, down and then up 2 frets, 5th fret of the D for the minor third, 9th fret for the 5th. And there you have it, again, to illustrate how easy it is to find these arpeggios. But again, a lot of times, if I'm really grooving with my friend, I'm probably not going to play the thirds and probably just play the root and the 5th. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind. Okay, so let's look at another progression. Let's say this progression goes E, D, A, E. Well, we already know our root, 3rd, and 5. Our octave, you can find the octave directly below the 5th on the next string. So here on the E, you find your 5th. Directly below that, you have another E note. So we can go. So now our arpeggios are getting even a little bigger. So we're gonna go 1, 2, and 3, 4. So that'll be our riff. 7th fret of the A string up to the 9th fret of the G, 9th fret of the D, back to the 7th fret of the A. 1, 2, and 3, 4. When we get to the D, same thing, because everything spatially with these arpeggios is the same. Then we get to the A, same thing. Back to the E. So that's how you incorporate the octave. One last little minor arpeggio trick before we start to look at the scales. You have the flat 7th. So if I'm playing A minor, we have our A note, the 5th, the octave, the flat 3rd. If you take the root note and you play 2 frets below the root note, you have the flat 7th. And you can get some really cool minor grooves by playing just below the root and the minor 3rd. So let's think about a groove that goes A minor, D minor, A minor. And what we're going to do is we're going to play the 5th fret up to the 3rd fret of the A, our minor 3rd, back to the 5th fret, 3rd fret of the E, our flat 7th, and then back to the A, making it an A minor 7. The progression goes to the D minor, our D note, root note, 5th fret of the A string, minor 3rd, down a string, up 2 frets, and the flat 3rd, 2 frets below the root. Cool, right? So, do 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 do. We'll make that the specific riff. 5, 3, 5, 3, 5. And then when we get to the D, 5, 3, 5, 3, 5. We just changed to the A and the D strings. And so that's how you add the flat 7th to your minor arpeggios. So now we have minor and major arpeggios with the octave. We know the major and minor 3rds, the 5th, and we know the flat 7th for our minor arpeggios. Let's go ahead and take a look at how the scales overlap. Pentatonic scales. Their power isn't limited to shredding on the guitar. You can create cool grooves with the bass. So let's take a look at that. Something else to keep in mind is that your pentatonic scales are the same. They just don't have 2 strings. But for example, the A minor pentatonic would still be 5, 8, 5, 7, 5, 7, 5, 7. If you had a 5-string bass, you'd add 5, 7. A 6-string bass, you'd add 5, 8, because the 5th fret of a 5-string bass is tuned as a B, and the 6th of a 6-string is tuned as an E, exactly the same as a guitar. We can use these minor pentatonics if we want to create kind of some funk riffs. With funk, you find your root note, so we're in the A minor pentatonic, 5, 8, 5, 7, 5, 7, 5, 7. And our roots, because we have the octave, is the 5th fret of the A string and the 7th fret of the D. Those are our octaves. Now, with funk, you're either playing 1 or 2 bar loops where you start on your root note, jam, and work your way back to the root note. So I'm playing around the 7th fret here on the D string. That's my A note. And I'm just noodling around and then working my way back there. Here's a specific lick that you can practice. What I'm doing is I'm pulling 7 to 5, playing the 7th fret of the A string, back to the 5th fret of the D string, and then back to the 7th fret of the A. Then I start over right here on my root on the 7th fret of the D. After doing that 3 times, I add a little turnaround that will resolve on the A on the bottom, or on the E string, that goes simple, 7, 5, 3, root. A nice little basic funky loop using my pentatonic knowledge from the guitar and applying it on the bass. Okay, so the last thing we want to look at is combining these two ideas. You can use these arpeggios for the chords, do 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 do, bam 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 bam, and use the scale to tie them together. For example, we got a groove that goes A minor, D minor, A minor, D minor. We're going to use that same groove from earlier. But when we get to that second D minor, instead of, we're going to go on a little run with the scale to tie these two together. Now, it's going to start on a chord tone, the 5th of the D, but we're not going to worry about it too much because we're just going to go with this scale. 7 on the D, 5 on the D, 7 on the A, 5, 3, then to the E string, 5. Then we go back into our groove. So the lick is, and we replace the last with that scale run to do something called a turnaround and create movement on that last chord. So now our groove sounds like, and that's combining the scales and the chords. All right, so that is how you kind of fake your bass skills. You use these root notes that you have with information based on knowing the root notes of your guitar. You use the scale information that you have from knowing scales on guitar, and you use these arpeggios and information to connect these ideas. And with that, you should be able to sit in on a bass session and create something that's at least good enough to jam with. All right, friends, until next time, keep on rocking and rolling, keep on loving life. Cool, everyone. Thank you so much for watching to the very end of the tutorial here at 10thumbspro.com. We appreciate you learning with us. Thank you so much, and until next time, we'll catch you next Monday for our next guitar tutorial, Wednesday and Saturday for our ukulele. Keep on rocking and rolling, keep on loving life, keep on jamming, and now at that next session when the bass is laying and all your friends are looking at it scared, holding their guitars, you can say, "Give me that bass and let's get funky, a la Bootsy Collins. Let me put my loving in your eyes so you can see where I'm coming from, baby. I'd rather be with you, yeah, yeah, I'd rather be with you." I love Bootsy. All right, take care, everybody. Rock and roll.